Dear friends, this is episode number 68 of the Limitation Act. We were dealing with Article 64 and 65 as well as the principles of adverse possession. And last time I cited in the last episode, I stopped where this Lakshmi Reddy versus Lakshmi Reddy, that decision was cited. We will continue to cite several decisions in this episode and in the 2 or 3 coming episodes, so that the full picture of adverse possession can be very lucidly explained. Next, 2002 3 SEC 258, same as AER 2002 Supreme Court 1012, Shah Muhammad Qadri, Quadri, Shah Muhammad Qadri. No, I committed a mistake. That is the name of the judge. I committed a mistake. I am very sorry. Name of the case is Konda Lakshmana Bapuji. Konda Lakshmana Bapuji versus Government of AP and others. There, what is held is that adverse possession is a mixed question of law and fact. Existence of possession as well as animus possidendi are essential conditions that we have seen. Clean and unequivocal assertion of title to the land by the possessor indicative of animus possidendi. Period for the purpose of reckoning adverse possession commences from the date both actual possession and assertion of title must be shown to exist together. Mere fact that a building was constructed by the possessor with the permission of the court, that will not confer him on any special right. So, one is a mixed question of law and fact. There are several facts to be proved. When did you start adverse possession? When did you start your possession? And what was the animus? Who has to prove it? The person who sets up adverse possession has to prove it. It is very difficult to prove. See, a person had the required animus to possess openly, continuously, and denying the title of the owner and known to the whole world. That is a matter to be proved, and then only limitation starts from that date. Then without interruption and all those things. So the decision is long paragraphs are there, therefore I only just mentioned the points. 53, 56, 61, 63 and 65 are the most relevant paragraphs. There are other paragraphs as well, you may read. Next decision is 1981 2 ACC 103, same as AER 1981 Supreme Court 707, Kshidish Chandra Bose, KSHITISH, Kshidish Chandra Bose versus Commissioner of Ranchi. Possession must be opened without any attempt at concealment. It is not necessary that possession must be so effective so as to bring it to the specific knowledge of the owner. Such a requirement may be insisted on where an ouster of title is pleaded. That is in the case of co-owners. Otherwise not. Otherwise, if they are strangers, not co-owners, that requirement is not there. It is not necessary, however, that the possession must be so effective as to bring it to the specific knowledge of the owner. It must be known to all. Then next point decided is land in question consisting of a portion of a tank or land appurtenant thereto. A person asserts hostile title to the tank and claimed by the municipality belonged to it, and the municipality claimed that it belonged to it. Despite the hostile assertion of title, no steps were taken by the owner to evict the trespasser. No steps were taken to dispossess the trespasser. Title by prescription would be complete after 30 years. 30 years because it is government land. And therefore 30 years is the period of limitation. 12 years is not enough. And he was in continuous possession, denying the title of the owner, that is protected. Next is 2007-6 ACC 59. Parallel citation AIR 2007 Supreme Court 1753. P.T. Munichikkanna Reddy, P.T. Munichikkanna Reddy and others versus Revamma and others. Paragraph 20. Thus, there must be intention to dispossess, and it needs to be open and hostile enough to bring the same to the knowledge, and the plaintiff has an opportunity to object. After all, adverse possession right is not a substantive right, but a result of waiving willful or omission, negligent or otherwise, waiving willful or omission of right to defend or care for the integrity of property on the part of the paper owner of the land. What is it? After all, adverse possession right is not a substantive right, but it is a result of waiving. How waiving takes place? I know that I have got certain right, I waive it. Waiver arises only when I am aware of my right. That is my volition. I may assert it or waive it. There are certain things which cannot be waived because things which are against public policy. I cannot waive it. Certain welfare legislations, certain benefits are conferred on certain persons, certain class of persons, and there will be provision in the statute itself, or even if there is no provision, it is a public policy, and therefore the beneficiary cannot waive it. For example, section 60 of the Code of Civil Procedure, 60 confers on several exemptions from attachment, and 1A, 61A is inserted by the 1976 amendment that an agreement to waive any of these benefits will be void. Likewise, so many debt relief laws or tenancy laws and all those things. A person cannot waive it because it is conferred by a statute. It's a piece of welfare legislation. So it is the beneficiaries are vulnerable people. Less advantageous possession they are having. And therefore nobody should pressurize them and agree to waive it. That is the principle. But after all, adverse possession right is not a substantive right, but a result of waiving, within brackets willful, waiver always willful, or omission, within brackets negligent or otherwise, of right to defend or care for the integrity of the property on the part of the paper owner of the land. Adverse possession statutes, like other statutes of limitation, rest on a public policy that do not promote litigation and aims at the repose of conditions that the parties have suffered to remain unquestioned long enough to indicate their acquiescence. That is why often it is called the Limitation Act is a statute of repose. Do not disturb the present position. That is it. Therefore, it is not a substantive right, but at the same time, it is because of willful omission or negligent omission or willful waiver, that right. Paragraph 23. And the principle nec vi neclam nec precario all stated. Then in Karnataka Board of Waqf versus Government of India and others, 2004-10 SEC 779, that is quoted in paragraph 23 of the decision which I cited, that is P.T. Munichikanna Reddy's case, paragraph 23. The decision of the Karnataka Board of Waqf versus Government of India is cited and quoted with approval. I shall read that quotation. Physical fact of exclusive possession and the animus possidendi to hold as owner in exclusion of the actual owner are the most important factors that are to be accounted in cases of this nature. Plea of adverse possession is not a pure question of law, but a blended one of fact and law. Therefore, a person who claims adverse possession should show following things. Please note: A. On what date he came into possession. B. What was the nature of his possession. C. Whether the factum of possession was known to the other party. D. How long his possession has continued. And E. His possession was open and undisturbed. These are the factors to be proved by the person who sets up adverse possession as a plea. A person pleading adverse possession has no equities in his favor. Equitable considerations are out because his claim is not rightful. It commences in wrong and it is aimed at right because the Limitation Act is a statute of repose. A person pleading adverse possession has no equities in his favor. Since he is trying to defeat the rights of the true owner, it is for him to clearly plead and establish all facts necessary to establish his adverse possession. So it has to be proved. Proved to the satisfaction of the court. All these ingredients. A new paragraph 35 I am reading. A new paradigm to Limitation Act heading. The law in this behalf has undergone a change. In terms of Article 142 and 144 of the Limitation Act, the burden of proof was on the plaintiff to show within 12 years from the date of institution of the suit that he had title and possession of the land, which I mentioned earlier. Whereas in terms of Article 64 and 65 of the Limitation Act, the legal position has underwent complete change insofar as the onus is concerned. Once a party proves his title, the onus of proof would be on the other party to prove claims of title by adverse possession. The ingredients of adverse possession have succinctly been stated in this by this court in S.M. Karim versus Musammat Bibi Sakina, AIR 1964, Supreme Court 1254. In the following terms: adverse possession must be adequate in continuity, in publicity and extent, and plea is required at least to show when possession becomes adverse, so that the starting point of limitation against the party affected can be found. Other decisions on this point have also been cited. The aforementioned paragraph 36, the aforementioned principle has been reiterated by this court in Swarup Singh versus Bando and others. I am reading all these things because you will get other decisions also. So otherwise I have to cite all these decisions over again. That is not necessary. Swarup Singh versus Bando and others, 2005-8 SCC 330. Para 29 thereof, in paragraph 36 of the present decision, it is paragraph 29 of Swarup Singh's case, was quoted. In terms of Article 65, the starting point of limitation does not commence from the date when the right of ownership arises to the plaintiff, but commences from the date of the defendant's possession becoming adverse. Animus possidendi is one of the ingredients of adverse possession. Unless the person possessing land has a requisite animus, the period for prescription does not commence, as in the instant case the appellant so and so, so and so. Now, another point. Possession need not in all cases be actual physical possession. Constructive possession is enough. Possession need not in all cases be actual physical possession. Constructive possession is enough. Why? Article 65. For possession of immovable property or any interest therein based on title. Now let us see one decision. AIR 1989 Supreme Court 1269. 1269. Srimati Chandrakanta Ben J. Modi. Srimati Chandrakanta Ben J. Modi and Narendra Jayantilal Modi, 2 persons, versus Vadilal Bapalal Modi and others. See, paragraph 18. I shall read that paragraph. The subject matter of dispute in the present case is the title to the chawl, CHAWL, as owner landlord, subject to the tenancy rights of tenants in possession. So tenants are there, ownership is there. So A is the owner, B is the tenant, different persons. The subject matter of dispute in the present case is the title to the chawl. Chawl, I do not know what is the meaning of chawl, as owner landlord, subject to the tenancy of tenants in possession. Neither the plaintiffs nor the defendants are claiming actual physical possession of the chawl by eviction of tenants. So see the case where a person is claiming adverse possession. And one person file, let us take it that the defendant is claiming adverse possession. Plaintiff is the owner, defendant is claiming adverse possession. But neither the plaintiff nor the defendant claims that he is in actual physical possession. Actual physical possession is with the tenant. Then the question is whether the defendant who claims adverse possession should be in actual physical possession of the property. Not necessary. Not necessary. Neither the plaintiffs nor the defendants are claiming the actual physical possession of the chawl by eviction of tenants. Any reference to the actual physical possession of the tenant is therefore wholly irrelevant for the purpose of present controversy. It has to be remembered that the title to the chawl as owner subject to the tenancy was an interest in immovable property so as to be covered by Article 144 of the Delimitation Act, which specifically mentioned or any interest therein. Article 144 corresponds with Article 65 of the present Act, 1963 Act. These words, or any interest therein, these words were retained in Article 65 of the New Limitation Act. It is true that it is the intention to claim exclusive title which makes possession adverse, and this animus possidendi must be evidenced and effectuated by the manner of occupancy, which again depends upon the nature of the property. The manner of possession depends upon the kind of possession which the particular property is susceptible of. That possession, to the extent to which it is capable of demonstration, must be hostile and exclusive, and will cover only to the extent of the owner's possession. That possession, to the extent to which it is capable of demonstration, must be hostile. How? I am the true owner, title holder of the property. I am the title holder of the property. I have inducted a tenant in the property. Either there is a building or building and land appertaining thereto, or the land itself for cultivation, whatever it is. Who is in actual physical possession? That tenant. I am the owner. I am receiving rent. Now, you claim adverse possession to that land. You start collecting rent from the tenant. That is a manifestation of your intention to possess adversely to my title. You somehow or other convinced the tenant that the tenant was liable to pay rent to you. You claimed ownership or some other right. Tenant said, all right, I will pay the rent to you. On the other hand, I am the title holder, I am not claiming. I am not going there. You start collecting rent. Continued. It is known to the whole world. There is no attempt at concealment. So the tenant recognized you as the owner. That status quo continued for uninterruptedly for 12 years. To my knowledge, there, though the term is adverse possession, where is the actual physical possession by you? No. You are not in actual physical possession, nor am I in actual physical possession. Actual physical possession is with the tenant. But who manifests the animus to possess? You manifest your animus to possess adversely. And you you are successful in implementing it. And that continued for the required time. Your title, you perfect the title by adverse possession, prescribed title by adverse possession. That possession, to the extent to which it is capable of demonstration, must be hostile and exclusive, and will cover only to the extent of the owner's possession. There are certain types of land where it is very difficult to prove possession. For example, Kyle land, submerged lands, water, full of water, land is there. Who is in possession? No signs of any possession. But still, there may be manifestations, there can be records, there can be other exercise of rights visible, and that will prove adverse possession. But it is very difficult rather than an ordinary land, submerged lands. Next heading, mere continuance of unauthorized possession. Mere continuance of unauthorized possession, even for a period of more than 12 years, is not enough. Possession is unauthorized, that continued for 12 years. It is known to the whole world. There was no interruption. that alone is not sufficient. What is the nature of possession? One of the Supreme Court judgments which I cited, 5 ingredients to be proved. See this decision. Classical example. AIR 1984 Supreme Court. 930. That is 1984 to SEC 286. That is by Justice P.N. Bhagwati, who was then acting Chief Justice, and D.P. Madan, Justice. Name of the case, Gaya Parshad Dikshit. Gaya Parshad Dikshit versus Dr. Nirmal Chandar. I will read, there is a very small decision, very brief. The principles are stated in paragraph 1. I think only 3 paragraphs or so. Only 2 or 3 paragraphs. Paragraph 1 gives the clear idea as to what is law. Then the findings, what the High Court did, we dispose of. But that is enough. Not running to 100 pages, 50 pages. See the felicity of expression. That is why I mentioned the name Justice P.N. Bhagwati, who later became Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. I will read paragraph 1. That is enough. Paragraph 2, some facts are stated. 3, the result. Paragraph 1. We have heard the learned counsel on behalf of the appellant, and after hearing him and perusing the judgment of the High Court, we find ourselves wholly in agreement with the view taken by the High Court that mere termination of the license of a licensee does not enable the licensee to claim adverse possession unless and until he sets up a title hostile to that of the licensor after termination of his license. It is not merely the unauthorized possession or on termination of his license that enables the licensee to claim title by adverse possession, but there must be some overt act on the part of the licensee to show that he is claiming adverse title. It is possible that the licensor may not file an action for the purpose of recovering possession of the premises from the licensee after terminating the license, but that by itself cannot enable the licensee to claim title by adverse possession. There must be some overt act on the part of the licensee indicating assertion of hostile title. Mere continuance of unauthorized possession even for a period of more than 12 years is not enough. Here in the present case, there is nothing to show that at any time after termination of the license by Dr. Ramashankar or by the first respondent, the appellant asserted hostile title in himself. We will continue in the next episode. Time is running out. Same decision we will continue.